Is your vehicle stopping like it should? Does it squeal or grind when you brake? Don't miss out on summer brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
The 3 Down Greencast is brought to you by the Pile of Bones Brewing Company. Home delivery available in Regina at sassbeerDelivery.ca.
Wear your fucking mask.
Welcome to the 3 Down Greencast, the internet's only Sergio Castillo podcast.
That was a really good Sergio. Like I am impressed. Your Sergios have come a long way since we started doing this together.
I mean, I've certainly had a lot of practice.
That's fair.
Basically, we'll get into it a little bit. Basically, he is your son. He is basically my stepson. As this started before we really started doing this podcast, your love for Sergio was already in full bloom, and I've just kind of adopted it alongside you essentially at this point. So
that's fair. When I came from the other podcast that rhymes with shoe and hout.
Mm-hmm. So yes, we will of course talk about the scorching start that Sergio Castillo has had with the New York Jets, which is really the only reason to watch the New York Jets. Unless you are a sucker for punishment.
Or unless, if you're me, my recent discovery that my Apple TV, and I am by no means an Apple fanboy, I just happen to have a couple Apple TVs, can do 4 games at once on the screen on Sunday. So it's like you can have your red zone and then 3 other games. And I am not ashamed to admit that every Sunday since I've discovered this, I have in fact had the Jets game on just to watch my boy Sergio, and I watch Monday Night Football just to watch my boy Sergio.
I mean, we don't want to get into this too much because we do want to actually talk about him a little bit later. But yeah, sure. In that scenario, that's entirely fair because at least maybe not the Monday Night Football, but during, the Sunday to at least have that ability to watch other games and not fully concentrate on everything that is the New York Jets. And we're also going to get into CFL Grey Cup Unite Week, whatever they're calling it. And that's... we're basically, in this episode, we're going to go from the highs of John Fraser to the lows of John Fraser. I'm just going to take a back seat and drink a beer.
That's fair. We are going on a real we are really going on a real emotional roller coaster on this one. We're going to end with some unbridled Fraser rage and start with my man crush on Sergio that has been building since the day that he came off the Bombers practice roster and split the uprights for a terrible Bombers team many years ago, and he has a fun name.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of roller coasters, the American election is finally done, and we're not going to get into the politics of that because...
Or is it, Joel?
It's done. And so...
Or is it?
I think you've all seen enough in your timelines and everything for the last little while. Where were we? To quote the Nevada guy, the Nevada elections official, when that crazy guy came out. Did you see that video?
Yeah. That
just completely ignores him. He's like... So where were we?
Yeah, no, what was your question again? This guy just comes on yelling and to crazy Nevada barbecue T-shirt guy. At least he was wearing a mask,
kind of
properly.
He was kind of wearing a mask. Yes,
it was kind of there. So
regardless, the whole thing ended in spectacular fashion. I do mean spectacular fashion with Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, doing a press conference at Four Seasons Total Landscaping, as I'm sure you know by now. And this has been, I think it's really just the perfect end to this election, this American election, just on so many different levels because of just how absurd and weird the whole thing just feels. And personally, the only thing I really want to take out of everything that's happened here, I know, John, that you've been obsessed with everything.
Yes.
Four Seasons Total Landscaping.
I really have been. I've been searching Reddit and Twitter, and you sent me a link to a shirt that has Gritty riding riding mower with Four Seasons Total Landscaping on it. It's $50 Canadian, and I am still strongly considering buying it. It was such an ill-advised purchase, but
Christmas is coming, right?
And you know what? At my new job at Ends Toyota, I actually do receive a Christmas bonus, so maybe I could justify it that way.
Maybe.
Screw you, PS5. It is time to get a Gritty riding a mower shirt.
Regardless, what I find really interesting about this is how basically this company has hit the jackpot. They are now without a doubt now the most popular landscaping company in the world.
Certainly. By a mile.
And because you would normally think in this scenario, when something affiliated with Trump attaches itself to a business, it's probably going to go fairly poorly for them. Yes, the Trump army will be very excited and they will support that business, but everyone else that hates him will just pile drive this business into the ground.
Yeah.
Instead, in a rare moment of American unity, it seems like everyone is on board with Four Seasons Total Landscaping.
Right.
And there is proof, because yes, they have essentially gone from being a landscaping company to being a merch company at this point, which I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. Strike while the iron's hot, absolutely. And there's proof that the Democrats and the people who do not like Trump haven't been ignoring this business, is because they had a release of masks on their website to sell, yes, and they sold out in like a day. And Republicans aren't selling out masks in a day. Sorry. So
no, it's true.
I think it's pretty obvious that this whole thing is working out, and it's spectacular, and just good for them.
Oh, and again, I've now, rather than just admiring the shirt link that you've sent me, I realized that it would go to putting money into Democrats' pockets to help win the Senate by-election. So, Joel, this might be happening live on the podcast tonight.
That's just amazing. And I really want to give them credit for their name, too. If we can talk about that for a second, because I was thinking about this earlier today. We talk about Four Seasons Total Landscaping. When they went through the different phases of this, was there ever a point where they were just like, you know what, Four Seasons Landscaping just isn't enough? Like, will people think that we're just partial landscapers, or are we full landscapers? So is there a Four Seasons partial landscaping out there, or Four Seasons kind of landscaping out there? Instead, they're like, no, we're going to make sure we are clear and concise that we are the total landscaping company.
You almost had to wonder if that was like some sort of like legalese that you have to separate yourself from the Four Seasons Hotel by a certain degree. It's like you have to be 2 words away from Four Seasons. I don't know. It's just it is really weird that it's total landscaping. However, speaking of total landscaping, I do love the fact that it is directly beside an adult video store. Like, the
whole thing is amazing. It's in like the random industrial area that every city on, at least in North America, has, with just the most random businesses side by side that you would never expect to be there. Because I think there's like a baseball facility, there's
a crematorium,
and of course the adult fun superstore, basically.
Well, the thing that I laugh at is, like, you and I have both done news.
Yeah.
And there are sometimes you get the media release and you roll your eyes and go, that is a dumb location to have a news presser. You just go, this makes no sense. Like, I'll never forget when Rob Norris announced his campaign. Again, I was out of the media by then, but Rob Norris announced he was running for mayor of Saskatoon. He did it outside the Cave restaurant on 8th Street, while 8th Street was undergoing spectacular amounts of construction, and there was even subtle shade by the CKOM reporter who put that in their story that we couldn't hear him. And I loved it, because there has been the odd time you've, like, shown up to a presser and been like, what the hell? I'll never forget when I was working in Lloydminster. They did this thing where, like, the mayor and a couple members of parliament, a provincial, like, they were all supposed to score a goal at, like, this news conference, and every time they scored a goal, they were giving $10,000 to some charity fund. Well, it was literally guys in suits on a cleaned rink shooting to an empty net with a wrong-handed stick. One of them missed from the hash marks, and they're like, yeah, whatever, who cares? Like, it was the most, like, frivolous bullshit I've ever seen in my life. And I saw the call for a landscaping company, and I'm like, yeah, I bet you every reporter there went, are you shitting me? Because everybody that's in news has stories like that, right? Like, you show up, you're like, why am I here? This is dumb. And I don't know, Joel, if you ever did you ever get the full Hockey Canada experience with a newser? Did you ever have to do a Hockey Canada newser during your time in news radio?
Not that I can remember. Nothing really stands out, no.
Oh my God. Hockey Canada news conferences are the world's biggest circle jerk. It is Dutch rudder after Dutch rudder after Dutch rudder. It's like, as a news guy, you're there to get the local spin. You want to do one interview because you're in the radio, and they have 7 different people talking, and it's always about nothing. It was like, you're not announcing the World Juniors, and they build it up like they're announcing the World Juniors, and instead they're announcing that they're holding some BS $300 a plate award dinner here in Saskatoon, and you got to haul your ass to the ACT Arena in the middle of a friggin' snowstorm to listen to a whole bunch of people Dutch rudder each other while you roll your eyes in the back to get 30 seconds of usable audio.
Maybe that's why I don't remember, because I don't think I'd ever have to go to something like that.
That's fair. It was me and a cameraman from Global who went, I don't know what any of this is. Can you ask all the questions? And I went, yeah, sure, whatever. You're a good dude. This was near. So again, this 4 seasons total. Like, I want a documentary on how this. I would listen to a 2-hour podcast interviewing everybody involved with this decision and how it came about and the fallout. Like, I cannot get enough of this because
I will say this. If the way COVID is going, we're headed towards another lockdown, and car dealerships are forced to close for a little while, I think you should just do that podcast. I think you should do the research and get it done.
Right. But I got to work on my documentary podcast voice. All right. And 4 seasons total landscaping, they decided to take on the news conference. And then you have like BG of like machines working. Yeah, I heard the Trump campaign want to come down here and they want to do the thing. And I was surprised at first, but I thought it'd be pretty neat. There we go. But I need more background music. That's the essential part of a documentary podcast is unnecessary background noise. Lots of SOT.
Yeah. The other thing that may require since we're talking about conspiracies, as after the Trump campaign and everything they're currently saying about the American election, there could be another conspiracy coming down the line here a little bit as the CFL Draft, the rules were announced recently, where they're going to have basically a lottery to determine the exact order. And I'm like, all this makes sense. This all makes sense. Yeah, why wouldn't you do that? And then it hit me. This thing's going to be rigged. And so I had to get to the bottom of it, and I've been thinking about it. And so I've written a piece for 3 Down Nation, of course, the website which hosts this podcast still for some reason.
Yeah, I haven't figured that out yet. I think
I don't think anyone on the site actually listens to us, so that's probably why.
No, I think Haji and Josh Smith used to.
Maybe. I don't know.
Don't know if they do anymore.
I wouldn't blame them if they didn't.
At one point, Josh Smith used to tweet about our often Josh Smith references.
Yes, the unofficial 3rd host of this show.
Who's never been on the program. But still, I don't know. He hasn't done that in a while. We've still been sliding in lots of Josh Smith references. So we are
maybe
now...
he's just over it. We got to be more subtle with it, maybe. I don't know.
Fair. But we've also been... So now our listener base has gone from my sister, Haji, Josh Smith, and maybe your wife.
No, she doesn't listen.
To my So we now have a listener. We now have my sister. Leah, I hope the town of Atikokan hope you're clerking it well today. While you listen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Regardless,
clerk that well.
The CFL Draft Lottery is, of course, going to be rigged, as every good draft lottery is. And
frozen envelope, Patrick Ewing to the Knicks.
Yes, that was the first one that came to mind for a lot of people when I started talking about writing this piece. A friend of the show, Dan Plaster, wanted me to make that connection. I was like, I don't really... Actually, I think Justin Dunk was on that one as well. And I was like, is there a player really at that level? And they're like, well, no, not really. But there will be the piece coming where I have come up with the scenario for every single team as to why it'll be rigged in their favor. And my favorite one, I'm not going to get rid of the whole, I'm going to do a little tease where here's a little bit of it, find out the rest on 3downnation.com whenever Dunk gets around to posting it. And my favorite conspiracy I probably came up with as to why the Hamilton Tiger Cats will be named the winners of the CFL Draft Lottery and win the first overall selection. Though there is an argument to be made that you actually want to lose the draft lottery and pick 9th and 10th. But regardless, in a normal world where you would like to pick first in a draft, the Hamilton Tiger Cats win this draft because of Tim Hortons. Why Tim Hortons, you say? Simply, no one gives a crap about their shitty coffee anymore. Well, of course, Tim Hortons is a big sponsor of the CFL, and a big sponsor of the Hamilton Ticats. So they will use that sway and pull that sway to make sure that the Ticats pick first overall to ensure that their brand will be associated with something good for a change. Will this do anything? No, of course not. Why would it? I mean, they could try making their coffee a good again one day, but I mean, that's just crazy talk.
Hey, make the coffee great again. Boom. There you go. Republican Party of Canada. There's your slogan.
Which is apparently might kind of maybe sort of becoming a real thing.
Yeah, I sent you the video. All
Yeah.
I know is the video I sent you from the Republican Party of Canada had Eye of the Tiger and a star wipe in it. It is the year 2020, and somebody used a star wipe, and that's the biggest reason I sent it to you.
And probably not, they probably didn't use it ironically like most people would now.
No, it was like I almost feel like I don't want to give them press, but I want to tweet it out because it's just like I'm big on the unintentional comedy scale, and this is like pure unintentional comedy. Like it is fantastic. But yes, do go on for the Make Coffee Great Again Tim Hortons.
Yes, so of course every other team has reasons why it'll be rigged in their favor. So watch for the piece soon. The truth will be known soon. Don't you worry. And unlike Donald Trump in this case, there will be evidence.
You mean not just an old man screaming at a cloud? I would love to see. I think you are right. I would rather lose this draft lottery.
Yes.
Because the weirdness of the CFL draft, because it is going to be a snake draft like your fantasy football leagues, you're almost better off to pick like at 9th and at 10th.
Yeah. I actually make it in the Calgary section of the piece. I make the joke where I say, in unrelated news, John Hufnagel trades the 1st and 18th selections to picks 9th and 10th and takes the best 2 players in the draft.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's always what happens. Or we could say the 2 players least likely to become RCMP officers by the time 3 years is up, because that's the CFL draft.
I mean, it's going to be very NCAA heavy this year, and the talent down there is getting pretty good. So I think, I do think overall the Canadian talent in this league is going to start to improve, thanks to just the way the game's going up here and the way it is. The players are progressing down there, which is very important.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there are, like, it used to be like a one-off for Canadians going down to the NCAA, and now we have Canadians that are making an impact in the NFL, as, of course, you being a Steelers guy and me being a fantasy football guy and having Chase Claypool. Like, and even a little shout-out here, too. Saskatoon's own Leif Magnuson, recording this on a Wednesday. Don't know if he's going to play for Arizona, but there's the son of a former CFLer, Quinn Magnuson. Pretty good guy. I've met Quinn and I. Have had a couple drinks together. Really good guy. And Leaf, there again, like now it's like that used to be like national football news. Guy goes down to the NCAA. We're going to follow his career. Now it's like, oh yeah, another guy from Saskatoon went down to the NC2A.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, there's so many of them now. There's so many of them down there now. You're learning about new Canadians down there every week. 100%. And you're right. That's going to benefit the CFL in the long term. And I think a big part of that is we continue to see, athletes here in Canada as hockey becomes more of a rich white douchebag sport, shift away from playing it to other sports like football, where you don't need to spend $1,000 to have your 5-year-old play it. Instead, it's $100 and he gets a cool T-shirt. Yes, absolutely.
Spoken from experience here.
And it's a sport where, like, once you get into the contact version of it, the equipment is provided.
Yes. I mean, you need cleats and a can.
And even then, a can's optional. A lot of guys don't wear them in football. So
I couldn't imagine. I always want the boys protected, unless I was a kicker. Like I'm not gonna lie. Speaking of no cans and kickers,
we'll get to that in a second. We have some other cans.
Good,
we have some other cans.
I know you do. About Sergio's moose knuckle.
I know, but we have some other cans to talk about first.
Okay.
And as usual, of course, on this podcast, we love to drink good beer, not shitty beer. Good local beer, or at least local-ish sometimes.
Right.
So as usual, John, what's in the glass this week?
Well, in the glass this week is a local-ish but another friend of our Saskatoon men's Bonspiel team, that is Parallel 49's Trash Panda. It now comes like... The downside, I would say, of local beers is that it comes in the four-pack of tall boys for the most part, right? Most of Pile of Bones and Rebellion's product, kind of the two you and I lean to mostly, comes in the 4-pack of tall boys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm all about, tasting the beer and enjoying it and sipping it, and
quite quickly though.
Oh, yes. Oh, no. I drink quite quickly. Anybody that knows me has seen me put down. It's like, oh, John, I'm ready for another round. But I do like the fact that they are in, which is funny because I have already had one of the 2 cans, as we've been speaking on this podcast, and we'll probably at some point have to get up for a third, which is much harder now with my new setup. But I will still find a way to make it happen. Yes, having some Trash Panda. It is a hazy IPA, now in a fun 6-pack from Parallel 49, another friend of the podcast. Again, normally like to spend my dollars local, but I think I canceled that out by making sure I had a 40-pounder of Lucky Bastard, and I do have a gift card coming my way from the one and only Fake Gainer from some voice work I did for him.
Well, la-di-da.
That's right. So I can go out and buy more local product on Fake Gainer's dime. And I now, Joel, this is like the highlight of my career. This is something I've been questing for like 8 years. I am like one of 2 people that knows the identity of Fake Gainer.
I know 2 people that have met him. Well, I guess you haven't met him, so you know him. I know someone else who has actually met him, so.
Is that Devin Haru?
It is not, so I guess that's 3 people then.
Yeah. No, Devin Haru. So this is a fun story. Devin Haru of CBC National was heading back to, I believe, either Saskatoon or Moose Jaw after a Rider game before, he became the, Mr. Sports at the CBC.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some guy pulled over with a flat tire. And Devin, being the gem that he is, pulls over to help this guy out with a flat tire.
CBC gem?
Well played. I didn't even try to set you up for that. That was a good one. So he pulls over. I guess BSing with this guy. Turns out that man was Fake Gainer. Helped him with his tire. True story.
What do you know?
Mm-hmm.
For me, I am sticking with the hashtag sponsor beer of the podcast. I have a perfectly delicious and amazing as always can of Pile of Bones Red Ale.
Oh, it is so good right now.
It is sneakily probably one of their best beers. It's one where you kind of go away for it every once in a while and you come back to it and you're just like, damn, that's good. Like you take that red, you take like a lot of ambers you see on the market, like a lot of ambers, they're all very good for the most part, a lot of them.
Right.
But it's got a little bit of an extra kick to it that just adds a little bit. It's a little bit really maltier, a little bit hoppier, and it just takes it up a little bit of a notch. And that's what I love about it. And if you have the patience, sit on it for 3 or 4 months, and it gets even better.
I don't have that patience, but
I
can tell you,
I know you don't.
I got the and you're right on the amber ale. I know Rebellion makes a good amber, but the Pile of Bones amber is just another level. I got Pile of Bones is now making a nice mixer pack of the 8 Tall Boys, and grabbed that not too long ago. And I remember I texted you that night going like, wow, the amber's on point right now. So I like amber ales because I find like I remember myself, my journey to craft beer started, and you're going to laugh, of all things, with Rickard's Red.
A lot of people have started down there. I mean, it was owned by Molson, so it wasn't really, but it opened the door to trying something other than whatever he used to drink all the time, right?
Well, and that was exactly it. Yeah. I was a, like, when you're 16, 17, you're Molson Canadian, you start turning 20, you try, this red is good. And by the next thing you know, you're 34 and drinking double IPAs and almost drinking nothing but local beer. And God bless Saskatchewan for all of that. So, no,
yes, and I would like to add right now, with the way things are going, it is more important than ever to please support your local businesses, whatever you're into, whatever your jam is, whatever your vice is, whether it's beer, coffee. I've been getting all my coffee from Calibre down here in Regina recently. Amazing stuff. 33 and a third also in Regina. There's Rampage. I'm sure there's other stuff in Saskatoon that I don't know a whole lot about in terms of coffee up there. Bread.
Broadway Roastery is always really good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I know there's another one. It's on the top of my tongue. I can't think of it right now. But yes, go local while you can.
Bread, baked goods, food, grocery, whatever kind of your jam is. odds are there is someone doing it locally, and you should try to spend, maybe not, you don't need to spend all of your money there right now, but just every little bit for them helps. And I can tell you that I know these people are hurting right now, and it's tough, and it's only going to get tougher, especially, they might get a bit of a bump heading into the Christmas season here, but after that, this January, February, March is going to be really tough for a lot of people. So every dollar you can, even if you say, you know what, I'm just going to buy gift cards to all these places and give them out as presents this year, that would just go a long way to help a lot of people this year. Because you know what, the big guys doing the big things, sure, their profits will be down, but they'll be fine.
Well, and I want to give a couple Saskatoon-centric shout-outs. I know 9 Mile, another place that has treated you and I really, really well. Not a sponsor of this podcast, but a place that we've gone, sampled some beers, and I know Adam Wolf and a bunch of the guys there here in Saskatoon, they're now canning their beers. Those should be on shelves quick, so if you don't want to head down to the brewery, I know it's in downtown Saskatoon. It's a bit of a pain to get downtown right now. You are going to see cans right away from 9 Mile. And you mentioned, like if you are thinking to yourself, I want to bring donuts into my team, don't waste your money on Tim Hortons. No. Don't waste your money on McDonald's. Don't even pick them up at Sobeys. Nutana Bakery here in Saskatoon. You will never have a better baked good than that. They've been very COVID cautious. You can't just walk in the bakery right now. It's a very small space, but you can call them. Hey, you got some donuts. You can pre-order. Again, as well, I know it's actually Connor's birthday tomorrow. We're going to be picking him up some Crave cupcakes, also a local joint here in Saskatoon. But yeah, like Joel said, let's go all in on the local. You think you're going to order something, don't order from the franchises. I know one of my very favorite bands, the Arkells. They had a new song of theirs actually playing that's not released yet, but it's playing, I believe, at the Capitol here in Saskatoon. And Amigos, just go support local. Like Joel said, Joel hit the nail on the head. Support these guys, support the small businesses, support local. Let's go here. Buy gift cards. You got a gift exchange coming up, $25 at 9 Mile. It's going to go a long way.
Absolutely. Speaking of going a long way, Sergio Castillo.
Sergio
has been
my
going
boy.
He's been going a long way lately, including 50-yarder against New England Patriots in a loss, but regardless, a 50-yarder in the NFL.
I'm so excited.
And you know what's on a sort of different level, what I appreciate about Sergio right now is that he is not only getting love from CFL fans, and of course, one John Fraser, he's also getting love from the XFL and their fans for his brief stay there where he became an overnight sensation after chugging some seltzer after a game.
In that video, and I looked and went, I don't play on the same, I wouldn't, I don't play for the same team. I'm not a guy that's, going after the same kind of teammate. I go after the other kind of teammates, as evidenced by having a wife and 2 kids. But damn, Sergio. Guy's packing some heat, and I ain't talking about those 50-yarders. So look up the seltzer video, and when you know, this is from a guy that's watched that seltzer video way too many times that I can tell you exactly what Sergio's dick looks like.
And regardless,
is that the most off the rails we've ever been?
It's quite possible. It's quite possible. It's very quite possible.
I knew I threw you off with the dick video stuff.
And regardless, Sergio he's just kicking it really hard right now, and what he's doing in the NFL
hard
is
and straight, Joel.
Exactly. Is actually quite impressive.
Oh, absolutely.
He's only had 1 field goal unsuccessful, and that was because it was blocked, so that wasn't even really his fault.
Which is BS that they put that on the kicker.
Yeah, otherwise, he's perfect. He's at about 87% or whatever it is right now, based on all his kicks, and it's great to see. And it just led to, a lot of people saying the more CFL kickers should get more chances in the NFL because they've been so successful the last while. And, really, this isn't really my moment. This is John, this is your moment. I know that, it's too bad it's with the New York Jets and not with a team of consequence, but I guess on the plus side of him being with the New York Jets is they're so awful at everything else that this gives us a reason to celebrate something around them. It gives us a reason to pay attention to the Jets to some degree. So, I guess it makes him the superstar of the New York Jets, at least. So, if he has to go down the NFL and play for a bad team, at least play for the absolute worst team so that he stands out in a crowd.
Well, and that's it. And the only downside is that I don't think we're ever going to see Sergio come back to the CFL, because now he has had consistent success in the NFL. You could always tell, even like, this is where my man crush on him started, was when, if anybody doesn't know the story, the Bombers were going through a real bad year, and he came on and they were having kicking problems, and he came on and he was just awesome. And he had a big leg and he had a fun name to say. So that's kind of where the bromance started. So to see him in the NFL is awesome. Would this make me a lifelong Sergio fan? Like, I don't know where he played his college ball, and I didn't watch him play his college ball, but since the day he's arrived in the pro ranks, I have been all in on the Sergio bandwagon. So, like, I feel this weird sense of pride. Mm-hmm. Like this is my guy, and he's doing well on NFL Sundays, and more proof that I think you could take any kicker out of the CFL right now and put them on an NFL field, and they do just fine. They'd excel.
Yeah.
Which
I think guys like Brett Lowther and Lewis Ward should be down there right now.
It's remarkable they aren't. When you look at like guys like Steven Gostkowski, who was great and is now just like pooping his pants here with the Tennessee Titans, or, you know, anytime there's a hamstring injury in one of these guys, like it floors me that the teams, you know, you always hear about the receivers and the quarterbacks and stuff looking to crack it in the NFL. But to me, you could literally call up any CFL kicker and go, hey, do you want a job? And they're going to excel. I mean, Brett Maher was good for like a heartbeat, but there again is a guy that just made the transition real seamless. I would even argue when Brett Maher went down to the NFL, he wasn't even the best kicker in the CFL. Like, it's just...
No, he wasn't.
It's remarkable to me that... And I know there's a lot of, like, living in Saskatchewan, it's almost annoying, the level of people that are like, yeah, Brett Lowther, get him down here. Like, I get it. It's a little insufferable. I mean, it's one thing when, like, Cody Fajardo says it. It's super rad. It's super awesome. Guy supporting his guy. That's cool. But, like, when you get, like, an NFL kicker misses a kick on Sunday, a missable kick, and you go on your Twitter feed and there's at least 4 Regina media personalities going, oh, where's Brett Lowther? Like, I want him to be there.
He should be there, but yeah.
He should be there. And just like Sean White should not be working at wherever the hell he's working. All I know is I saw him in Instagram. It's got like big like machine looking things, and like they look like silos. I think it's an industrial site, but he shouldn't be working there. The guy should be kicking in the NFL, but it is a little insufferable when everybody's like, oh my God, that was blocked. Better bring in Brett Lowther because he could have made that from 74 yards. While they breathe heavily while I'm writing that tweet.
Regardless, so you're curious, in case you're curious, Sergio Castillo went to West Texas A&M.
Okay.
They are
not even Texas A&M.
West Texas A&M. They are the Buffaloes. And
nice.
They play in the Lone Star Conference of NCAA Division II football.
Oh, no, wow. I know you're the college football guy.
I'm on Wikipedia right now, to be perfectly clear.
I know. I figured. Like, before you Wikipedia'd Sergio's college, have you ever heard of the Lone Star Conference?
No, I don't know much about Div 2.
And like, your college football knowledge is pretty good. It's pretty vast. Yeah, I've never heard of the Lone Star Conference either, but I'm glad, and it's more proof that more guys like Sergio should be given a shot and would excel. And as I can tell you by the constant gifs of me just being like crying like a proud father, and of course the replies, and thank you to everybody who replies to my love of Sergio with the Sergio gif. You know the one I'm talking about.
Yep.
It makes my heart smile.
I mean, they get sent to me too now every time I bring them up, just because, as I said, I am like, he is your son, he is my stepson. I have adopted Sergio Castillo, and the love of Sergio Castillo is just as strong. It's maybe not as paternal, it's not as natural, but it's there.
The only thing, though, that like with his success in the CFL, I think you and I, when we started this podcast, and this has been going, again, we've had one interview in the entire time we've done this podcast.
Yes.
Going on 3 years now. And Sergio's always been the top of that list. The only thing that makes me sad is I feel like as his NFL success continues, the odds of getting him on are slimmer and slimmer. I mean,
you never know.
It's like, I feel like, though, like, I almost feel like we should give it a shot, because we could go through, like, maybe the Jets PR people, and, like,
I'm sure I can ask Dunk who his agent is.
like now I feel like we used to talk about that we were going to make this happen in person. I feel like we need to make this happen over Skype and make this, like, our second interview.
Who knows when anyone's going to be able to interview players in person again.
Well, that's exactly it. I feel like this would be the time to do it, maybe. And we try to track down, and we start the quest for Sergio, and we have him on the pod. We have him recorded over Skype. We talk about my long-standing love of him. We ask him about the transition, about bouncing around. Like, I just feel like, all jokes aside, I feel like the guy would be a great interview. Going from Div 2 to Winnipeg to Hamilton, down to the XFL to the NFL, like, the way the guy's bounced around, like, he's probably seen some ish. And it'd be great to pick his brain, right? So he's still, to this day, there are 3 people on the approved interviews list. Sergio. Derek Taylor, of course, because we've had DT on, and Derek's a great guy. And Cody Fajardo. Because, again, Cody Fajardo, I feel like, would be a good interview. I mean, this is the guy that goes on.
And you got to do something for the click sometimes, right? So.
Yeah, we got to get our listener base back. We got to get our listener base back at some point. So
at some point or another, yeah.
Maybe we can track down Cody that time. When we hit, when my sister gives up on us, that's when we track down Cody.
Yeah, that might be the time. Someone who's really doesn't seem to be too worried about the clicks right now is Commissioner Randy Ambrosie. Oh, for
frick's sakes.
Sorry, we got to go down you've reached the pinnacle of the roller coaster. Now it's time to bring John down a few notches. As, of course, we all know, coming up in a couple of weeks here, or whenever the hell it is, CFL Grey Cup Unite week is coming up. They're basically going to try to do a virtual Grey Cup week. Overall, not a bad idea. Something interesting to try to keep some kind of interest in the CFL, as they've gone dormant for the last number of months, as they don't want to seem to talk about anything important.
Why don't you just lay everybody off and threaten to fire people when they leak stuff out? Because God forbid we find out what's going on with your league in the off season, so we can be excited about it. Meanwhile, the rest of us just sit here going, are we going to be a full-time beer podcast in a year?
I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
Do you think Dunk would still have us on the site?
We may have to I don't know. We probably wouldn't have a website. Like our podcast, like I'm just saying, I don't know why we can't speculate on the future of the website. Obviously, that came out a little wrong, but I mean, he might. I don't know. You never know.
I think Dunk would. We just make it like 3beernation.com.
Something like that.
There we go.
So yeah, and there's going to be a bunch of events going on, and we're not here to wax poetic about how great this is. That's not our thing. If you want just the information, you can find that somewhere else. What's interesting is they are doing the annual fan State of the League address, which has always kind of been a fun little event, but never really anything super interesting, super important comes out of it.
Well, no, because usually everybody's hung the F over and doesn't want to ask any questions.
Yeah, and a lot of the questions are more statements, and then for some reason anyway.
It's questions by people who aren't professionals at asking questions.
Yeah. Which is fine. It gives fans access to the commissioner, which is important. I get that. That's all great.
Yep.
But this one is going to be particularly useless because...
This was a joke. Not even useless, Joel. This is a joke.
First of all, it's on the Monday of this week, which is never anything. Like, Monday is not a part of Grey Cup week. Media doesn't even start to roll until about Tuesday, usually. Stuff kind of starts a little bit on Wednesday, and then for real, it's on Thursday. So all of a sudden, of this supposed virtual Grey Cup week, you want to do something on the Monday. And then they decided it's going to start at 3 Eastern, 2 Saskatchewan time. And they've asked for questions to be submitted, which also leads me to believe that the commissioner is probably not even going to be live. So,
no.
If you were expecting anything of consequence from this, don't.
This is so CFL. And I know that's stealing from the old, this is so TFC. Back when TFC was an absolute gong show, I remember, being a longtime Tim and Sid listener, they'd always say, that's so TFC. The sad part is the CFL through this COVID canceled season, all you can keep saying is, that's so CFL. I don't know if you could epitomize the awfulness of what the CFL has done since the canceled season better than having your fan state of the league at 3 East on a Monday. Like, you couldn't pick a worse time than 3 East. There's not a time zone in this country that is not reasonably expected to be at work than at 3 East.
On a Monday, even.
Even in Newfoundland, it's 4:30. I could see if you held this thing at 5 East, and a bunch of people from out west were going, I'm still at work. Because I will admit, this is a cool event. This is a really cool event. I've been there, hungover as F, but I've been there, sweaty, wishing I had a cheeseburger. But I don't
So
know,
the only difference in that situation is that you're sweaty?
No, I'm usually always sweaty. I'm not always hungover.
No, but you always want a cheeseburger too, though. So
that's also fair. Or wonton soup, depending if I'm curling or not. But I don't think anything could summarize the CFL's stupidity and possible arrogance more than having this fan-centric event at a literal time in the country that your league is played in that not a single person is off work. That's what I don't get. Whoever planned this is a moron and should lose their job. And I don't say that lightly. Oh, wait, they blew everybody out, so the only people covering the CFL or giving a fuck about the CFL is our website right now. The top 100 list that's going on in 3 Down Nation, the articles going on in 3 Down Nation, the leaks going on in 3 Down Nation, Dunk and Down are the only people that care about this league right now. The league themselves laid everybody off. They got stupid Twitter polls that were obviously scheduled months in advance, and now they go ahead and put their fans into the league at 3 o'clock East when nobody's going to give a shit. You talk about the survival of this league. We all thought, oh yeah, they'll be back in 21. It's too big to fail. The only thing that's going to bail this league out from their own stupidity and their own disappearance and their own laying everybody off is the fact that there's a whole bunch of provinces with a whole bunch of skin in the game on a whole bunch of new stadiums. That is their only saving grace right now. And this epitomizes that. A commissioner answering pre-asked questions when all of us are at work. The common man is at work. And I'll tell you what, I got some freedom in my job. I'm not tuning in out of principle. This is stupid. This is short-sighted. I don't know what the league is doing. They either need to rehire some people to go back to find a way to make themselves relevant, or guess what? They're going to get the people's elbow when The Rock starts up the XFL in the spring and figures out, guess what? Multimedia works. This league so far behind everybody else, it's almost embarrassing, and this is proof of it. It's awful. It's stupid. Nobody's going to watch. It's going to be a complete failure, and it just shows how stupid everybody in the league is these days. So if you expect Commissioner Randy Ambrosie on this podcast, I'd probably just burn that bridge real hard.
Yeah, I mean, that's been known to happen. Don't need to get into specifics, but if you're ever curious, ask Josh Smith about that.
Or the time that on my old podcast that Jeffrey Orridge reached out to me on our podcast and then listened to one episode and quickly realized he wasn't coming on my old podcast.
Yeah, well, I mean, what can you do?
That's fair. There's a guy that's got the personality of a face written on a 2x4 anyways, but
I mean, that one didn't really work out, so there wasn't really anything lost there.
no, but and as much, and I will say, as much hope as I had, you had a guy in Ambrosie, came on.
I'm not even going to lay this one at his feet. There's someone else making this decision, and this is not something that needs to be a decision that he needs to make. This isn't something that has really much to do with Randy Ambosi's job description. So this was put on his plate, and they said, "Hey, we're going to do this, then," and he just said, "Okay."
But on the same note, though, Joel, that's his full-time job, right? Is to care about the league, and at some point, there's like 4 people working at the head office these days. Like, they've laid everybody off. The teams have laid everybody off. At some point, he needs to go, "You don't think this is a bad idea?" I feel like, and the impression, and this goes back to him asking Parliament for money. I feel like he's surrounded by yes men that are just like, "Hey, Randy, go ask the government for some dough." And that's a big ask. That's not something a guy can be prepared for. No matter how good his business acumen is or how good of a person he is, you can't be prepared for that. And he goes out front, has no info, has no numbers, has no PA backing, and gets clowned. Now he's coming out, and like, at some point you have to go, like, if you're as brilliant as they say you are, and as you're expected to be as a commissioner of the league, you have to go, "Guys, this is a bad idea. Let's do this at 5 o'clock on a Thursday. Let's do this when we normally would, when everybody's hungover on a Saturday morning." Like, I'm with you. Somebody else has made that decision, Gas. I don't disagree with you there. But I do think that at some point, Ambrosi has to go to the 4.5 people that work in the league office this day and go, if he wants to show some leadership, now is the time to show that leadership and go, "This is a bad idea." What the hell else is he doing? Like, I'm with you. If he was busy, I'd be like, "Yeah, no problem. Somebody will schedule this."
No, I mean, I'm sure. I mean, that's not entirely fair. I'm sure he's busy with stuff. I am sure that they are working on something behind the scenes to get everything going. At least I hope they are. So,
I don't think they are.
I don't think that's fair.
Okay. I'm you know me. I'm always pessimist and I'm angry.
No.
But I hope you're right. I genuinely hope you're right. The logical part of my brain says you're right. The part of me that's had 4 beers in the past hour says you're wrong.
Well, we're just going to go ahead and call this now. The decision has been made, and we're going to end this podcast the way we started it. Just wear your mask, okay?
That's the sound of your current hype level at the gas pump. But brace yourself for something fuel-nominal, because Unleaded 88 is about to take the hype to a whole new level. Unleaded 88 is cheaper, cleaner, and greener than regular unleaded. Plus, it's homegrown, making Unleaded 88 the clear choice at the pump and totally worth the hype. So pump it up with Unleaded 88, brought to you by Iowa Corn.
Is your vehicle stopping like it should? Does it squeal or grind when you brake? Don't miss out on summer brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts.